welcome. Hopefully, we have audio here. I am Joe Caprino. I have uh-oh, uh, the president of the Indiana High School Coaches Association, Jake O'Neill, here. Got a lot of interesting things that we can talk about today, especially the new rules coming up and rule changes. So, Jake, how are you doing? How is the quarantine in Wabash?
Lord, I miss wrestling
You're not the only
really, really
one.
badly.
Um, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what your position is at with the coaches association.
So I'm on my second year as the president of the Coaches Association. I spent last year was my first year as I served as a president, and I spent 2 years prior to that as the vice president to Greg Ratliff. And we had a vice president for me, Josh Holden. Um, Josh is going through a career change and decided to step down. So the way it works with the Coaches Association, and now that I'm in the position that I have and have the experience that I've had, the way it works is these guys that have been there and knows how to communicate with the IHSAA and just how to piece together an entire year. It's just like right now, it's April and we've got a lot popping off. Proposals are always exciting. Rules changes and big changes to the sport. Um, and that's exactly what this position is all about. But it's important to have had the experience in the years past to help guide through these decisions and know what's coming and who to talk to. And so Danny Struck, a former president, stepped in as the vice president. And, of course, Greg Ratliff, who I served underneath, is still around to help with a lot of these discussions and decisions. And these guys are not only good friends, but they're great for the sport, and they've put a lot of work in, and they've given a lot to the sport, and it's been a blessing to me to be a part of it. And it's times like this right now, changes that are happening with the sport, to be involved in these conversations.
Oh yeah.
So a bigger picture type deal. And um, so yeah, I've got one more year, and then Danny will step in as the president again. And honestly, I'm 43. Danny's the same age. We've got to get some young blood in here, and it is a lot of work, man. We put a lot of time into it, and it's just like our coaching stipend. It's less than a coaching stipend. This is volunteer work, man. So, but it all is, and I appreciate what I do. Don't get me wrong, and I appreciate the impact that it may have, and hopefully it's a good one. So hopefully we make the right decisions here. Um, Pretty scary stuff I think with losing a weight class. It's we were talking before. We just can't be missing out on these opportunities to wrestle, and that's exactly what would be happening if we eliminated a weight class. So
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you wanted to hop right into that, but
We might as well. The big debate. I got into some heated arguments this weekend. Is the NFHS has proposed. Obviously, when you get to that part where it's that deep in the process of a rule change, uh, they're proposing a new set of weight classes, 13 weights. If you look at them, it's basically they're bumping pretty much every weight up a pound or two, and then they're basically removing 182 and 195 and making that 189. That's kind of the big change. Um, Tell us, I guess, what's your, I guess, opinion on this potential change? I mean, you're in the same position I am at times where you got to look up, you got to you got to look at it from uh, two different avenues. One is from your personal how it's going to affect Wabash, and how much it's going to affect the state right now. So tell us what are you thinking? I guess from both ends of the spectrum.
Well, and that's been a tough battle for me to change those hats from well, yeah, I try not to look at it as if I'm going to benefit from it personally, um, because I'm not going to be sitting here forever, and I know the bigger picture. I've coached at other places, and don't get me wrong, man. I love my kids, and I want the best for my kids. And although we might benefit from the format that the NFHS is proposing personally, but I can't look at it like that. I gotta look at it for what's best for the sport and what's best for the state, and and I know just overall that eliminating weight class is simply just it's simple as eliminating opportunities for young men and young women to wrestle, and that's not what we're in the business for. So
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
I definitely agree with that. I know I put some stats out, and I just wanted to figure out, what are we gonna lose here? Taking that, are we gonna save? I think from what you gather and what I gather, the reason they want to go down to 13, or even Pennsylvania wants to have 12, is to save forfeits. Is that what the gist you're getting, as far as why they
So, and what makes me feel better about this whole situation, and this is quoting Robert Falkins, our commissioner. Um, when they're throwing out data with forfeits, that's we're it's a wrong focus. Our focus should be on the kids that are wrestling in those weight classes, and the opportunities we're going to be taken away if those weight classes don't exist. So, and they keep throwing out those, all that data about forfeits, but that's not where our focus should be. The focus should be, you know, the opportunities that we're taking away when we're taking away that weight class, and that's quoting Mr. Falkins, and it's refreshing to hear that and know that as a state, we don't have to adopt these weight classes. We can choose to keep our 14 weight classes. So that's refreshing in the battle. I do know those facts, that we do have a commission that's in support of keeping the weight classes. And I know, just talking to the coaches that I talk to, and everybody else that I've talked to, we're in favor of keeping those weight classes. And with that being said, I feel really good about our stance on this decision, this poor decision, in my opinion, that the NFHS is making.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Just as a side note, you have a little bit of which is it's very interesting. You have a little bit more of a long relationship with Mr. Falkins. Is that true? He was,
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
which,
So he
which
was
helps
my.
us a little bit. I hope. Hopefully, you're a good kid in his class, right?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. We've got a fantastic relationship. He was a teacher and a coach at Ben Davis when I was there, and pretty much he was at South Wayne Junior High when I was in junior high, and so I've known him since, man, I was a teenager, and the relationship has always been good. Um,
That's good.
Probably not because I was a good kid, but because he was a great teacher and a coach, and and he did what's most important, and that's develop strong relationships with kids like me, and he was a good mentor, and to have him be in the position that he's in right now, and the position that I'm in right now, it is a blessing, and we do communicate well, and most of the time we see eye to eye, and he's done a fantastic job of learning the sport, and don't get me wrong, he's in the position that he's in because of his strong personality, and because of his ability to look at the big picture of things, and deal with the higher ups, because people forget too that he's not the end all be all there, that
Yeah.
board. there that they make the final decisions, and it's not him that has total control over it. But he's a good one to have in our corner. And yeah, we go way back, man.
That's good. Good for the sport, really, that we have that he's
I
there.
think so.
That you got
I think
that past. Luckily, you were a good student. You were in a little hellion in class that that he remembers you from. Like, oh man, I don't want like dealing with that guy. No, but that's good.
I
But
made it. I made it.
so one of the things I put together some stats, and basically if we went with those weight classes, which all but takes away, it combines 82 and 95. It kind of went through and like, okay, if we're gonna save forfeits, how many forfeits are we gonna save? How many varsity athletes are we gonna lose? And basically, if a team had this year had a 82 and 95 or 95, I counted them as having the future 189, and we would save 107 forfeits. We had just under 900, which that sounds like a lot, but there would be 203 varsity kids that wouldn't be wrestling at sectional this year, this past season,
That
which is
and see again right there. That's the number that I hate hearing,
yeah,
and that's the data we should be hearing and throwing out there. And that right there is why it's a bad decision.
yeah. That's 200. I mean, we have just over 300 schools, so you're taking a varsity athlete for 2/3 of the schools, basically, which is that's a scary number. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's and even I even went as far as okay, 103 and 106 and 113 are always the most forfeited weights. If you kind of combine those weight classes, you're still you save 154 forfeits, but you would 157 kids would lose varsity spots. So even if you would go to the other end, you're tit for tat there. You're not saving anything. You're not. I'd much rather give 100, half the teams an athlete in the varsity, lineup rather than do
No doubt.
192.
Well, and the 200 something are the raw numbers, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, if if you've ever been a high school coach, it who knows what kind of dynamics are happening within. It might be 300 kids because who knows what the dynamics are with that particular teams and the weight classes, and you just taking a weight class away is just simply not the answer.
yeah.
I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, I have some ideas on I mean, the main thing I keep trying to say is we got to attack participation, get more kids out for the sport, get more kids interested in the sport. If we get more kids participating in the sport, we're going to have less forfeits. That's kind of if we have 10,000 wrestlers wrestling, we're obviously going to have less forfeits. There's going to be less opportunity, there's going to be more kids in the lineup. So
Yeah.
if we work on
Yes.
recruiting and I have another idea, we'll talk about it maybe a little bit later. If
Oh, jeez.
kind
You
of
and your idea.
hey, it
Here
works.
we
I'm
go.
good. If you don't have an idea, it's a little bit out of the box, but it's also something that I think you could really push. And I know I've been posting about it, and a lot of people agree with it. So, um, but yeah. So with this whole fun stuff, I don't know if it sounds like it's all but official. We are tell us a little bit about what's going to go on. You want to send out to the coaches and everything to look. Look through
Yeah.
this week.
Well, I mean, we're just we do a spring survey every year, and we hit up the hot topics of on what's happening with the sport, and obviously with the weight classes right now. Just try to gauge a feel for where our coaches are at with this. And we already know what every coach in the state or most coaches in the state are thinking. But if we get it down on paper, the IHSAA listens a little bit more. So it's important on these surveys that our head coaches participate and give us those numbers. The higher participation that we have, the louder of a voice that we have when we take it to the IHSA. So, it's just pretty much, hey, are you in favor of keeping 14 weight classes? And I'm assuming that's going to be a heavy and resounding yes. And it's just
Are we losing you?
so.
Hold on. Of course, he's locking up here. You there, Jake? So it's not just Mike that we lose.
Something we could take Cincinnati out. We got tomorrow, So check your emails.
Okay, say that again. I think we lost you for a second here. There.
All right, where'd you lose me at?
You were getting ready to say kind of what to look for and everything.
Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, just check your emails. So and participate in the survey. Um, Mr. Fulkins will send out an email. I'll email all the ads and head coaches. And it's 5 questions, I think. Did you lose me again?
Nope, we got you. So,
Okay.
coaches, make sure you check with your ads. Obviously, it's a interesting time. You're not in the buildings uh, and stuff. Make sure you check with your ad if you don't get something. You said that's going to come tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so check your email. If you don't get something tomorrow, hit up your ad for that survey because it is extremely important to participate and vote for 14 weight classes, and that coaches do not need to adhere to the hair rule
Hey.
or shaving rule. So, yeah. Um, so that's Wabash Wi-Fi. Yes, it is. What?
Hey man.
Any other guest comments? I know. I'm definitely for keeping 14 weight classes. I know you are. I think just looking at the comments here, I think it's a resounding. I don't know if anyone said that to get rid of any weight classes. So that's a good sign that all the Indiana Matt fans on here uh, vote 14. That's our new hashtag. Um, so any other comments you want to make um, about the weight class, the process, or anything like that before we move on to the other smaller, not as important rule changes?
Like I said, and I think this survey is gonna speak for us too. And then I should say, at least our commissioner feels the same way. So I feel good about our stance with this. A little scary news, but I think we're good.
Yeah, and that makes you feel good because usually we do go pretty much with whatever the NFHS says. And when I heard that, when you emailed me today and said that Falcons likes the 14 weight classes, I breathed a sigh of relief there
Well, and
because
I think we're good. That's and I've definitely thought we were good in some other situations, and then come out on the other side like, whoa, what happened?
yeah,
And you know, it happens. What happens behind those closed doors, and um, it happens, and we don't have. And that's just like once we talked about it earlier. Once we start hearing the rumors about this, and I don't think it's official yet, but it's happening. With the NFHS. Once we hear all the rumors about that, it's already the ball's rolling, and it's tough to stop, and the people that are in place are have their minds made up, and but hopefully when push comes to shove with us, we keep the 14 weight classes, and I do feel good about it.
yeah, that's good. I know that's the scariest thing. Is I don't know if I've ever, other than smaller tweaks to the NFHS rules, I don't think Indiana usually goes against that, especially because the NFHS is housed in Indy. So, um, which is good to know. So, a couple other smaller rule changes. I know the first one I will mention, I don't think we would have an issue with, but others will. The hair rule. They basically are saying that you don't need to wear a hair cap, and it can be as long as you want. Which I know you have a daughter that wrestles, obviously heavily involved in that, and I'm sure she won't. She's not going to shed a tear over that. Any comments on that other than it's probably
Let
20
them
years
wrestle, man.
past 10,
Yeah,
20
man,
years
let them
past
wrestle.
they should have done that.
It's right back to my philosophy with keeping the weight classes. It's all about giving opportunities to wrestle, and if you're taking away opportunities, this is taking away an opportunity. You're telling a kid that they can't wrestle because of the length of their hair, or whether they don't have the right equipment for their hair. It's what are we doing? I'm just not in the business of taking opportunities away,
No,
and I feel like that rule is exactly what was happening. So
yeah,
yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it's archaic rule, and like I said before earlier, is like I think it's just putting in there in the '70s. They didn't want the dirty hippies wrestling, so they're like, oh, we'll have them cut their hair if they want to wrestle, and it just stuck in there, and no one really cared about it. And unfortunately, there was a really big blow up of wrestling, last year of a kid cutting his hair in the middle of a match. That didn't help the image of the sport, and
No,
honestly, it doesn't
it's
matter.
2020. I mean, I can't believe that it's taken this long for us to get here with it. Um, but it is kind of an old school view. Um, let them wrestle.
Yeah. As much as I'd rather them have a nice clean cut hair, it doesn't affect their way they wrestle. It doesn't affect their opponent. It actually probably affects the person with the long hair more than it does the other person.
Most of them end up cutting it anyways because
Yeah,
it just gets in the way, and you know they get they get where they're point one or point two over, and they got a big mouth.
yeah.
They might end up
So
losing that point one or point two.
the other
Um, yeah,
the
let
other
them wrestle.
interesting rule they're gonna the shave rule they said from what I read it's up to a half an inch of a growth on your face, so you're not gonna have to shave as much, which is good. Uh, Obviously, your facial hair would be a little bit too long. I think that's more than a half an inch, but again, I don't think it's. I think they have gone overboard with the shaving rule, and I've seen kids with, they're not even at puberty. They have a little string on their face, and they're you got to shave. It's like really. So I think that's good, and I know I was talking to and then Tyrone Wilson, who refs NCAA, said they've noticed a lot less skin conditions since they've went to the no shave rule. Um,
Interesting.
because when you're shaving, what are you doing? You're nicking your face up. You're basically
Interesting.
in.
Yeah.
So, which would help hopefully skin conditions a little bit because that's how you get skin stuff in your, you have scratches and stuff. That's right for any kind of skin disease. So that's another good one. I know they have a couple other ones with like out of bounds and stuff that's hard to get into without having a rules interpreter try to tell you exactly what it means, but they're inching towards a college out of bounds, but not quite.
They've gotten better with it every year, and I think that the changes, the tweaks they made this year, are creeping towards the end goal here.
Yeah,
Which, man, I mean, if you ask me, we should have a push out rule. We should get closer to freestyle rules. Is what we should be doing. Um, which is similar with the stalling call, the objective stalling call in college. With the
yeah,
if they're getting attacks out of bounds, that's an automatic stalling call. I love it, love it,
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Uh,
I like it in college. The biggest thing just having it in high school just it scares me just because of the inexperienced level of some refs and not knowing what to do. And at that, they could change some matches real quick with that. And that you've seen it in college too, some weird ones. So
Very. Oh, and some that cost some kids some pretty prestigious titles.
yes,
Um,
yes, very much so.
uh,
So
some pretty heated matches. Yeah, yeah. But they've gotten better every year. Yeah, I remember 2 or 3 years ago when they first implemented, they changed the out of bounds rule. Oh my gosh, with the I don't know what was it. The knees had to be in bounds, and it was like, what? Wait,
yeah,
you had to be on your knees. You couldn't
yeah,
get up on your toes. That was an awkward change, but we're moving in the right direction. That's something else that I've learned, in this position that, if you're patient with some of these decisions and just kind of give and take with the IHSA, you can kind of manipulate some of the things that we want
yeah,
um, out of the sport. And I say we, coaches and the people that really know the sport. And a lot of times, and the bigger picture is just too big of an obstacle for us too. And
yeah.
they're
I
not going to budge on like wrestlebacks or however we put it. It's just there's some topics that they're just not going to budge on, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, you gotta take
Now
bites.
that's
Bite. You don't eat the whole piece of cake right away. You take bites out of it, and eventually you get the whole cake. So, I yeah definitely. I think it helps the coaches and everything that a lot you have a relationship with Robert Falcons way before that. I think that's huge as far as getting anything done, and you're gonna get probably more of the truth out of him than someone that hasn't been him since they were 13 years old.
well, you're always going to get the truth out of Robert Falcons. There's
Well, that's
one thing you're
you're not wrong about that.
you're going to get the truth from him. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I'm man. I don't know. I was scared. I'm scared. I feel a lot better, but make sure. Do you have anything? I guess I don't have anything else. I just anyone you want to thank? Anyone? Any other things you want to say? Any shout outs to any of your?
We
You're not
got.
on Go
I
Radio, so
haven't
you.
been paying attention to the text over here. We got people on here trash talking me. Autumn Baldwin's. I think she's talking about I'm old or something. Did everybody see my bike? So quick story. I've had a bike since 1987, the BMX bike,
Okay.
and it's man I've had it with me in college, and it's just been in storage and in my shed, and it's been in my shed for like 3 or 4 years. And I went to clean out my shed, and it wasn't there, and I kind of freaked out. It was a nice bike. It was a classic Redline,
Nice.
and my coaches ended up they got my wife to fish it out of the shed, and they made it up. They painted it orange and black, and put our little patchy wrestling symbol on it, and my name on it. It's pretty cool. Skylar Hall,
Yes.
what's up, Bubba?
Nice. I wonder. I saw the picture. Was it yesterday or the day before? And I didn't. I was like, what? I saw that there's you had the logo and the orange and black, and I'm like, there had to be something more to it, but it just had the pictures. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Very cool story and very thoughtful. My assistant coaches, shout out to Jimmy Olinger. There was a cool story about Jimmy. Jimmy is one of my assistant coaches. When I was there in 2003, and he graduated the same year I did. And of course, I graduated from Ben Davis. Hey, Kevin. My stepbrother Kevin Huddleston.
Nice.
He's got a stud son coming up, Alex. He's a hammer. Um, but Jimmy qualified for state the same year, and he was at Wabash. I was at Ben Davis, and then of course we linked up when I moved up here to Wabash, and even when I moved back to Ben Davis for those 4 years, Jimmy and I had kept in touch, and obviously a pretty special relationship. That's best part about this sport's the people, man,
Yep.
and the relationships you develop, and it's quite special here in Wabash, and them doing that with that bike, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the end of the year banquet type deal, and of course this coronavirus thing messed that all up, and
Yes, it did.
um, I felt like this has redirected everybody's thinking, and I've been able to communicate with other coaches a lot more since this mess has been going on. So everything happens for a reason. So
Another question, I guess, while I have you on here, since what's the, I know, especially you have a little bit vested interest with your daughter wrestling, and she's pretty decent from what I've seen. What's the status on girls wrestling in Indiana? I know it's growing, it's getting better. We obviously have a couple of girls that are pretty good in like national and world level. So how's that looking like as far as getting that sanction and stuff?
Mike Williams Sr., what's up, Mike? I'm starting to pay attention to this over here.
Sorry.
So girls wrestling, we proposed it. Funny story. So I was the vice president at the time, and it was Greg Ratliff last year as a president, and we went into the first step to these proposals is we meet with the athletic director association at their conference, and we give them our proposals, and they give us feedback on the proposals, and then a couple weeks later we take it back to the IHSA board and make it official. We obviously talked about girls wrestling prior to this, and should we do it? And at the time it was like they were up to like 12 states, and it's like, hey, we're falling behind on this, and Falcons was like, we're still a couple years behind on this. We're still a couple years out. We got a couple years, and we met right before this athletic directors association meeting, and it was me and Greg and JD Minch, who was he's our executive director for the coaches association. He's just a mentor and been there, done that for years and years, and big reason why why I'm in the position that I'm in. But we were all sitting there, and Falcons walks up and is like, "Let's propose girls wrestling." I don't know what happened. When we were like, I thought you said we were a couple years out. He's like, no, let's do it. Let's put it on the proposal. I'm like, okay. And man, it got to the athletic directors, and they loved it. They just absolutely every single one of them they were in favor for it. There wasn't one person in there. I bet you there was 100 athletic directors in there, and not one of them was against it. So, we took it to the board, and they tabled it, which was a surprise. It was like one of those things like, all right, man, this is going to happen. But we proposed it for, let me go back. We proposed it for the 21-22 season last spring, and they tabled it. Now, yesterday, they changed eligibility of sanctioning a sport. At that meeting, the president's meeting they had yesterday, they changed the eligibility of sanctioning a sport from 50% to 150 teams, which puts us right there on the cusp anyway with girls wrestling. Like I said, they tabled it last year. I feel really good about it. I guess is what I'm getting ready to say. I think once we take it back to the proposals next spring, hopefully there's been a lot of discussion. So I've got a girls wrestling committee in place that we've actually got a Zoom meeting with Mr. Falcons next week. There are 6 of us in place. I got Jeremy Goodlet from Lebanon. He's got a good program going there with the girls in Lebanon. Jason DeLois, the ISWA girls director. Paul Rademacher, Indiana Tech coach, girls coach, and Katie Kriebel from Pendleton. And we've all been exchanging dialogue about girls wrestling, mostly about what we want the tournament to look like as it grows, weight classes. And it was interesting how I changed my tune with the way I looked at the weight classes with the girls, because it was, hey, let's make the girls have less weight classes so there'll be less forfeits. But then we start having the discussions with the boys, and then I'm like, hold on, back the bus up. What are we doing here? Are we doing the same? Is it the same dynamic with the girls? Absolutely. I think so. And it immediately changed my mind about wanting to have less weight classes with the girls. And looking around the country, we've got, there's some states that have 14 weight classes, and there's some states that have 10 for the girls. Mm-hmm. And I feel like having less weight classes isn't the answer. But we just want to make sure we have our ducks in a row, because I do feel like that they're gonna sanction it for the 21-22 season, and we just need to say, hey, this is what we want it to look like, and we need to make it look right, and we need to make sure we're doing it right, and make sure it continues to grow. And I feel really good about that. I do, and it's special. It's crazy how it all lined up with my daughter. She'll be a senior that year, 21-22. That'll be pretty neat for that to happen. And for me to be a part of those discussions to make it happen is a little weird, actually. I just kind of fell into this position and got pulled into it, and all of a sudden I'm staring down some pretty neat decisions that are being made and discussions that are being made that it's going to make a pretty good footprint on the sport. So
yeah, that's good. Do you have any ideas of how that will work? That's one thing I know. Already AD asked us about it, and I'm like, the biggest thing that's scary is like, is this going to be a totally separate sport, or are we going to combine it? Is it going to be? Are we going to have, when we wrestle whatever team, are we going to have JV girls varsity, or is that kind of going to be up to the schools? Do you know anything about, there's so many logistical
Yeah.
things that we have to figure out, but obviously having a couple years to kind of iron some things out, definitely it's better than just jumping in and say, okay, it's sanctioned, and then everyone has to figure it out on the fly.
And exactly why they tabled it. So, hey, if you're going to do this, let's do it right. I think as far as the season goes, winter is the only answer. I don't think it's wise to look at another season for the girls. Speaking fall or spring, because that was part of the discussions too. Like, should we have it in the fall or should we have it in the spring? And I think the way practices are ran and the way tournaments are held, and where you split your coaches up, it's going to look different from program to program. And I think it's something that's going to mold as it, we need to mold as it grows. It's going to look a lot different, now than it will in 10 years, because it will grow. Once we sanction it, it's going to take off. And we'll have to change. The things are just going to have to change, just as is a program that grows their girls team. If you have one or two girls on your team and that's all you're dealing with, then you probably won't have to change your practices. You won't have to find another room for them. But if you've got 20 girls on your team, and like, hey, we need to find a spot for them, and ultimately that's what it's going to look like. So those are the discussions that we're having right now for the next year, so we can make sure that looks right. We need to look at it as though it's going to grow, because it will. It will. No doubt in my mind, it'll grow. As soon as it's sanctioned, it'll take off like crazy. It's already growing right now. We don't even have it sanctioned. So we don't know what that looks like right now, but those are definitely part of the discussions that we're having.
It's good to hear that. I mean, that's good for the state. It's good for anyone. The more people that can wrestle, and obviously it helps Indiana having Kayla and Sarah both on the world teams. And
no doubt about it. And that's why I just saw Blaine Cole say, who's going to be the first one with 2 wrestling rooms? And how cool would that be? I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? It's just to have two separate programs running side by side. And the same thing with the state as well. The track does it, swimming does it. I'm very confident that we can pull it off in wrestling as well. We got great people involved in the sport, and it just takes more than the coaches and the athletes, but we've got great people involved in the sport, and we can handle it. We can handle it.
Yeah, no, that's good. Glad that I thought about that, because I know obviously that's going to be one of the proposals. Next year is a proposal year, so I assume you guys will probably send out a survey this fall, I assume, and then kind of structure some proposals. That's how it usually occurs, correct?
Yeah, and well, I mean, like the discussions we have this spring, or they'll be part of our decisions as well. But the fall clinic, leading up to the fall clinics, is always ramping up to our seasons. Always a big time of the year to gather those those talking points for the spring. And that's like I was talking about earlier. We just got to know when those times hit and be ready for it, because if you're not ready for it, you ramp up the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden you get caught up in the craziness of the season, and then all of a sudden the spring hits, and it's like, hey man, do we have all the data for our proposals? And there's a lot going on in this position, and I do encourage any of the coaches, especially young coaches out there. Coach Cook up in Hobart, and Coach Colt, Columbia City. They're a little bit younger than me. Let's get involved and let's get down in the trenches. And I feel like all the white in my beard it's not just from coaching my program. It's from this position right here. I show up to a tournament, and I usually get bombarded with complaints, and that gets old after a while. But
I can
There's some rewarding points to it as well, no doubt about it. And I love what I do, and I love where I'm at right now. It's pretty special to me, and this girls wrestling. Um, Obviously, it's personally, it's close to my heart and means a lot to me, and I'm excited about it. I really am. And like I said, man, I feel good about our position with this weight class debacle that the NFHS is throwing out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad Indiana as a whole is 14 weight classes, and this isn't like class wrestling where it's, there's a sharp divide. People are saying, even though it might hurt my program, we'd be better off with 13 weight classes. There's no reason why we can't do it with 14. There's no reason, it might be good for us this year to have 13 weight classes, but in 3 years, I might be chock full of 82s and 95s, and I'm trying to find them spots in the lineup, and you never know how the weight classes shift. It's based on who I have in my room. I can tell you about 14 weight classes I'd like to see next year, and they're all just based on where my best kids are going to be sitting. So it's
Well, taking away one weight class, depending on the dynamics of the team, taking away one weight class, that might affect two kids on one team, just depending on where they fall in their weight. And not the answer. Definitely not the answer. I don't know why we're going there with the sport, but who knows? There might be a bigger picture up there, and that's just like with the Olympic weight classes, and shaving those off. It was a shame to see that, and you hated seeing that, but man, you give and take, and at least we're still wrestling.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So.
But
we are right now. Hopefully we're wrestling soon.
Yes,
this is killing me. Killing me.
Yes, I'm sure there's probably about 5,000 kids that would love to get on the wrestling. As much as they would, they hate. I know I've gotten some messages. I would love to go 6 minutes. I don't care how gassed I do. I'd love to do a full practice mid-season. 2-shirt practice, that type of stuff. Right now, it's amazing how much they miss it when you're forced to not have it. So hopefully we're back on the mats soon. So I guess we will wrap this up. This is actually got a little bit longer than I anticipated, but that's not a bad thing. Got some good information out there. But the main thing is, coaches, look for your emails. If you don't get something, contact Jake or contact your AD. I'm sure we could, if you need his email or his anything with his information, it's out there. So find it. If not, ask me. So any other parting words of wisdom before we get off of here?
From me?
Yeah.
Oh man. I try not to speak a whole lot because I feel like the more I speak, the more of a chance I have of not saying something smart. So I'll just shut up for now and wish everybody the best, and hopefully we're back on the mat soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for getting on here at a short notice, and
yep,
we'll be off here, and we'll talk to you guys, everyone, later.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yep.